everyone. Welcome to Learn English with Football World Cup Special, a show in which I talk to my friends and football fans about the World Cup 2022 in Qatar. Stay tuned Stay tuned until the end because later I'll be clarifying some interesting language from this interview. And my guest today is none other than Marv, the great. Hi, Marvin. Good to have you back.
Hello, my friend. Glad to be back once more.
Fantastic. Marvin, this is you. So, how do you like the World Cup so far?
Kind of mixed in my opinion. Some of it I've enjoyed, and some of it I've enjoyed a bit less. A few too many tactical games and stuff. But overall, it's been all right. Not the best, but maybe it's going to catch fire soon, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so too. I'm with you. I'm actually a little bit disappointed, but as you say, knockout stages are approaching as well. So, I'm sure things will pick up soon. Marvin, I have invited you today because I know that you are English, but you are living in Mexico. So my question is this: do you still support England despite living in Mexico and having a Mexican wife and all that?
Yes, I can confirm. I still still support England. And speak English as well.
Good.
I'm still supporting England, and also Wales because my nan is half Welsh. So I support England, Wales, and Mexico here because obviously my boy and my wife. So yeah. So all three. I can't lose, you would imagine, but I guess it's not.
We can hear your boy, and I know his name is really interesting because his name is Diego. So that's. Did you name your son after Maradona?
It was kind of a mix, really, that we were deciding on names, and my wife's names are all dreadful. So I was thinking, like, maybe he needs a Spanish type name, and
Okay.
it did cross my mind. Diego Maradona was in there. I thought also mainly of Diego Costa because he played for Chelsea. Was a warrior, but I liked the name. I thought it was a strong name, and I found out what it means, like God's going to protect. So I decided to keep the name Diego. Go for the name Diego.
Nice one. Okay, so you've told us that you support obviously the England team. I'll ask you just one quick question about that because I consider you an expert on Mexican football now and South American football. You living there in that place, right? Mexico is in the sort of like Central America, but you know what I mean. It's close enough. So,
Yeah.
are you happy with England's performances so far?
Well, I mean, the second game was dreadful,
Yeah.
all the way across the pitch. But that's what I did expect from this World Cup. I expected that. I didn't expect like what we got in the first game. I was happy with the first game because we scored a lot of goals and we won. I mean, my expectation for England not that high. I just hope that they get out the groups and don't embarrass themselves. It's kind of what I always hope for. But they did really well in the Euros. Actually, I mean, apart
Yep.
from a select few players that I won't name, that I don't really rate even in the leagues. But but other than that, I mean, if you look at the 11 that we have, I'm quite impressed. There are a lot of players that are good. For
Yep.
example, one of your boys, Saka, really nice player. You got some really
Oh,
good.
he's amazing, right?
Yeah, I like him. I think he's a good player. He beats his man. He cares a lot. He scores goals. He's good, and
This
I like that.
energy about
Yeah,
him, it's incredible.
yeah, he's quite
But
humble.
my main takeaway, Marvin, my main takeaway is Harry Maguire's form. He has been really good this World Cup. I'm surprised. Are you?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just when they don't play for terrible teams, maybe they are a bit better. But yeah, he was really good, especially in the US game. He was the best player in the match. So, I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully he keeps it going. I mean, I won't support him when he plays for Man United, but when he plays for England, of course, I hope that he does well. But he did really well, actually. And the positive is we haven't lost. Right, I mean, we've not lost. So, as long as you don't lose, the momentum is still kind of there. So, let's see what happens next.
Right. So let's talk about the Mexican team then. Um, Tell us about some Mexican stars because, to be honest, I don't really know anything about Mexican football. So I assume you are aware of the
Well,
main stars in the team.
yeah, arguably this is like the weakest Mexican team they've ever had. It's not as good as the ones we saw from like 8 years ago when there was all of those.
Yeah.
You know, there were good players there. There were a lot of one-touch, two-touch players, and the coach was really good. This time they've got two that you might recognise, which is Lozano. Hirving Lozano plays for Napoli. Winger, good player, and he's probably their best player now. And also there is Diego Lainez, who's quite a young player. He's also good dribbling, running with it. And also Edson Alvarez from Ajax that was linked to Chelsea in the summer. He's a good defensive midfielder. And of course, the superstar that sits at the table with Messi and Ronaldo, the goalkeeper, Guillermo Ochoa. So there are some all right players, but overall, like, I wouldn't really say stars as such. They're struggling, and now going to take a bit of a miracle to see what they do from here. But it's not done. It's not over yet. There's still an opportunity there.
Absolutely, because they've got 1 point right from the first game, as far as I remember.
Yeah, 1 point against Poland. Ochoa saved the penalty from Lewandowski, so they kept them going just about.
I remember that. Yeah. So would you say that Mexico have a young team, or why do you think they're not as good as they used to be?
I think actually one of the biggest problems in the current Mexican game is that the stars are overpriced in their own country now. So much like what you see with England, you don't see many English players going abroad. And actually the ones that do normally do quite well. If you think of like Bellingham and players like that. So this is the problem. They're trying to like charge maybe 25 million and stuff, and it's putting off a lot of Spanish teams.
Yep.
So now you're only getting one or two that go. For example, Lainez went and he didn't get many games. So they're having a bit of trouble with that. They obviously had Raul Jimenez until he had that unfortunate injury. He's not the same player anymore, but when he was really good for Wolves. They need more of their players abroad, I think that's one of the issues that they've now got. Because if you think about the team that they had 8 years ago, there was about 5 or 6 of them in the 11 that were playing abroad. So you even had Hernandez, who I don't think is that good, but you had a lot of midfield, Guardado and people like that still in their prime. Hector Herrera that plays in Porto right now. But all of those players moved quite a while ago. So they're going to have to fix something about that for future.
Absolutely. To be honest, they have to do it soon, because as we know, in 4 years' time, the World Cup will be in Canada, the USA, and Mexico.
That's going to be interesting. I think they'll probably, you never really know, because you expect teams to maybe do good and they don't, like Canada. I kind of hope they would have done better than they did. And, so I think maybe they'll pick it up. Melon. Oh, God, my son's found a melon. So that's the point. I think that they still got a chance to survive. So maybe they normally actually always they get out the groups. So this would be a big failure for them if they don't.
Hang on. Mexico in this World Cup, you mean?
Yeah, they always get out the groups in the previous ones.
Oh, okay.
They always get the second place, and they got. You remember the one where they had one of their best teams? They got kind of screwed over by that Robin dive.
Well,
many years ago.
To be honest, I don't ever remember Mexico setting the world on fire though. Like, so I'm.
Oh no, they've had some really, really good. Remember the Blanco bounce? That was like I think it was 94 or 98, where that was like. Yeah, go ahead.
What was how far did they get what was the furthest they got there?
I think that the best they did was quarterfinals. I know that they've had a lot of round 16 exits.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. But if you think about it, a round 16 exit is a fairly decent effort.
Yep.
I think if you're considering a team that's doesn't have maybe the talent pool of a Brazil and Argentina on that side of the world. I know they're not South America. But if you consider USA and teams like that, they've probably also not really done much better than that. I do remember USA making a quarterfinal before in 2002. But if you look at the teams from their area, Costa Rica and teams like that, they don't get that far.
Mm-hmm. But you would say Mexico is a massive country, and for me, still more of a football country than the USA, at least with my perception. So. I don't know. I'm surprised that they are not doing they're not doing better than this.
Yeah, me too. And you will definitely hear that over here. This will be for them, it will be like a national scandal if they go out the groups with 1 point.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the group, you would expect that they should be able to beat Saudi Arabia, and they should have put up a fight against Poland, right? You can deal with them and a loss to like an Argentina maybe, but so they do have to win this next game.
So they drew against Poland.
Yeah.
And then Saudi in the first round, Saudi Arabia somehow managed to beat Argentina.
Yeah.
So how did that even happen, right?
Crazy. I just did a bit of digging actually in the 1986 World Cup when I was there. They actually did make the quarterfinals. So this I think was their best. But 94, 98, 2002, 2006, 2010, 2014, 2018, always round of 16. So this will be a big step down. I mean, they haven't failed to make it to the knockout stages since 1978.
Well, they did win their next game though, so they beat Poland, right?
When?
By the way, Argentina, they won.
No,
Who did they
not Argentina? No, Argentina won against Mexico in the game yesterday.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's what I wanted to ask you about. I messed it up. That's okay. Basically, Argentina just beat Mexico, right? And it was 0-0 in halftime, and then they pulled off some miraculous goals. One of them was by Lionel Messi, and I wanted to ask you about that. So, how special was that goal? How did you see that?
Well, I saw it with red eyes. No, obviously I wasn't happy that he scored, so I didn't appreciate it as a good goal. But it was, it was a very good finish. It reminded me of the goal that he scored against Iran in the World Cup, like 4 years. Was it 4 or 8 years ago? I don't remember. When it was the last minute of the game was over, and he scored from miles outside the box, placed into the corner. It's really, really similar. And that's the difference. When you've got like a player with quality that can do those kind of things, that's how it ends. And this is the problem that Mexico does not have this. So they had all of the play. They were good in the midfield. They were good in defense. They had the final third. It wasn't there. And where obviously for Argentina, it was there. Then they got 2 goals out of that.
For me, this is a mark of like a special player because, I mean, we know it about Messi, but imagine the kind of pressure he must have been under after losing to Saudi Arabia. Like, how difficult must it be to live up to your fans' expectations if you're Messi? You can either be a hero or a villain. Like there's nothing between. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, because they expect him to score in every game and they expect him to win every game, and but that's the kind of standards that you set. If you are that good, it's the standards that you set. So you've got to live with it. That's why you get paid all that money. So. And he has won a hell of a lot of things. So, it's different if it's like expectations that you get with maybe Harry Kane, that he will score in small to mid-range games, but whenever it matters, don't do anything. It's a different thing because I'm expecting him to flop every time it matters, whereas I'm expecting Messi to deliver every time it matters because that's the culture that you have created.
I think, would you agree that like in the first half of his international career, he wasn't the same Messi as when he played for Barcelona? However, now it looks like he really feels that pressure of this is his last World Cup, and it's possible that he will really give everything on the pitch, right?
I think that a lot of people watch the highlights and kind of are expecting something different to what he actually is. So obviously the earlier stages, he was incredible, but he had also an incredible team. And then Argentina was good in that time. He didn't deliver, but that's kind of maybe a black spot on him, but he will always be an elite playmaker with the ball at feet. And I think that that's where a lot of people don't see where he's at. They all expect those dribbles like against Getafe and stuff like that. But actually, he's an elite playmaker. Give him the ball anywhere inside the middle and he's going to create stuff. And I think that's what we do for the final 2 or 3 years of his career.
They won the Copa America as well now. So it's a massive, massive achievement for him, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And now he can, like, he's already immortal, of course, but like imagine him winning the World Cup.
Well, I've never agreed with him being the best player ever, but I do think he's in the conversation. And I think if they won the World Cup, you could kind of argue that he definitely is. Because those kind of achievements really separate what is an elite player from just a great player. And again, I would use Kane as an example. He's a really good striker, and he's also a good playmaker at number 9. But he's not Mbappe, and that's Mbappe shown that on the stage every time they needed me there, he's there. And
I just hope,
you know,
Marvin, as a big fan of the Premier League, you know me, I hope Mbappe goes there and doesn't stay in the non-competitive French league. I'm so sorry, but I think it's such a shame. Like it can't be about just about money for him. Come on,
yeah,
he has
I
to he
agree.
has to prove this in another team. Imagine he went to Chelsea or Arsenal. Come on,
Yeah,
how
I mean,
amazing would that be?
I would be really happy if you went to any of the kind of like the current top 8 teams, as long as it wasn't Man City, Man United, Liverpool,
Spurs.
Arsenal, Spurs, or
Yeah,
Newcastle. I'd be really happy with
yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
that. But yeah, no, I think so. Yeah, he needs to do that because I think that will make him immortal. But yeah, I think it's interesting. This will be the last Messi World Cup, so we do have to appreciate the player because there'll probably be
Absolutely.
maybe 2, 3 more games maximum.
Absolutely. Okay, so will Argentina beat Poland? And they if they win, will they qualify, or is it?
I think that they only need to, yeah, because they won 2-0 against Mexico. I think they've got a bit of a better goal difference now, haven't they?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, I think they do need to win still. And if Poland wins, they could get eliminated. So that's a tough call. I think that they'll win. I think that they will win.
yeah,
It's going to be that group's going to be interesting how it finishes because
exactly.
if Saudi Arabia wins, there is a big spanner into the works there. So we'll see what happens. That's one of the interesting groups.
Absolutely. Anything could happen there. How
Yeah.
about Mexico, the team you support?
I think that Mexico can still qualify. The problem is that it's better for Mexico if Poland wins, because if Argentina wins, I believe Mexico need to win 3-0, and there's no goals in the team.
Yeah,
So they're gonna have to alter the tactics. They're just gonna have to fly at Saudi Arabia from the beginning. But I don't think it's with like out of the realm of possibility. I think they could still qualify, and I think they will win against Saudi Arabia.
yeah.
Shouldn't
But
underestimate it though, but they've got a team that matches up quite well with Saudis because Saudis aren't very they're not like super quick and they're not strong. And I think
yeah,
that Mexico are quick, so I think that that's kind of a bad matchup for Saudi Arabia.
yeah. It's also going to be really difficult for Saudi Arabia to replicate that result from the first game because now nobody's going to underestimate them anymore, and
Yeah,
it's still the quality is even Poland. They didn't produce the best football, but you could
yeah,
see when Lewandowski had the ball, like there was the danger. There was so much danger about him,
yeah.
right? So,
Of course, of
yeah.
course.
Right, Marvin. It's been fantastic to talk to you. Thank you very much for this wonderful insight into Mexican football. And
Let's do it.
yeah, good luck.
And
And
who are
yep,
you? I was going to say good luck, but who are you supporting?
yeah, that's a good question. I don't even know. I don't know. I support good football. Actually, I don't mind. Like whichever team impresses
Yeah.
me, they will have my heart.
So England are out then. That's unfortunate.
Not necessarily. Like
They've got
you know,
Arsenal players though. They've got
yeah, there are
Arsenal.
Arsenal players there, and it doesn't matter to me really. Like I honestly, that's the beauty of being a neutral fan. I guess you can pick whoever you want that you enjoy
That's true.
watching. So
Let's get it. Well, thanks for having me on. As always, really enjoyed it, Zdenek.
you're very welcome. And now I'm gonna explain some vocabulary in the language corner. So thank you, Marvin, and see you soon, man.
Bye, brother.
And we are back, and this time I'll be looking at 5 items of vocabulary that appeared in this interview with Marvin. And as always, I would like to point out that this vocabulary is useful also outside football. So if football is not your thing, if you think, oh, Zdenek, but how can I learn uh, from something that I'm not even interested in? Well, you can. Obviously, I hope you are interested in football. But if you're not, you can still learn. What you could do, you could just watch these bits that I do, this language corner series, or what you might call it, and learn from it. This time, I believe, 2 adjectives. There's an adverb there, and 2 idioms. You see, it's varied as well. Let's go. Are you happy with England's performance? This is what I asked Marvin, and Marvin said the second game was dreadful. So he was referring to the England USA match where England really didn't play well. And Marvin described it as dreadful. It means awful, it means terrible, really bad, horrible. Okay. Dreadful, a nice, strong adjective. The only way you can really intensify a strong adjective is by using the word absolutely. So you cannot say very dreadful. You cannot say dreadful, more dreadful, the most dreadful. It's not really used in this kind of way. Instead, we say absolutely dreadful. Right. Once again, dreadful means awful. So, which of the matches would you describe as dreadful? I would honestly go for any of those nil-nil matches because I believe there have been too many of them in the tournament already, and it's rather disappointing. And those were dreadful performances of both teams. I think they play defensive football, they park the bus, and I don't really enjoy that. Let me know in the comments which matches you so far in the World Cup you consider dreadful, you found dreadful. Okay, then there is a word arguably. This is how Marvin started this sentence. Arguably, this is the weakest Mexican team. So I asked Marvin about this Mexican team and why they are not exactly excellent. And he said, well, arguably, this is the weakest Mexican team. Now, what does the word arguably mean? So, first of all, notice that we use it at the beginning of a statement. So, if you're giving your opinion and you put this word at the beginning of your opinion, then basically what you are saying is that this statement is very possibly true, if not certainly true. Okay. So this word arguably is used when you're stating your opinion or belief and that you think can be shown to be true. If you think this is something true and this can be sort of shown as true, you can say arguably. Yeah. But I think it also sort of softens the whole statement. So if you only said this is the weakest Mexican team, it may sound a bit too strong. So by using the word arguably bit before this statement, you're making it little bit weaker, which is something that obviously British people do a lot. They use this indirect language or this hedging, as we call it, hedging. Those are structures that help you sound less direct, or that sort of help you sound less certain. And you do this if you don't want to sound like you're stating the fact or something, which is always risky, right? If you, for example, if you write an academic thesis and you basically say something and you present it as a fact, it's actually quite risky because it might not be true, right? Especially if it's your opinion. And this was certainly Marvin's opinion. One of the biggest problems of Mexican football is the stars are overpriced. So we're looking at the word overpriced. So stars meaning the footballers. That's what Marvin said. He thinks that the footballers they they cost more than they should. He thinks that the footballers in Mexico are too expensive. He thinks that they are costing more than they are worth. And the word we can use to say the same is overpriced. So if someone or something is overpriced, it really costs more than it should. Yeah. So Marvin says that this is the issue for Mexican football because then these good players they don't play in better teams, in better leagues, in Europe, for example, and that means that they don't really get that experience that you need to compete at the highest level. Yeah. So a very useful word indeed. Overpriced. Notice where the stress is. Overpriced. Overpriced on the third syllable. Okay. To be honest, I don't ever remember Mexico setting the world on fire. This is what I said, and I believe this is a good idiom. to set the world on fire. In this case, I said, I don't think they set the world on fire, which means I don't think they have ever done, uh, uh, they have ever been really successful, or they have really done remarkably well. So if you set the world on fire, you do something remarkable, you do something sensational, you are very successful. But often it is used again as part of an indirect language. If you say, this player, instead of saying this player is not very good at the moment, you could say, this player isn't exactly setting the world on fire. So what a lovely idiom, right? You can use it to sound less strong again. Yeah. So hopefully, hopefully this video is setting the world on fire. And obviously, if you want to support this video, give it a like. Yeah, it does help it a lot. If you feel like this video isn't setting the world on fire, you have the option to give it a dislike. Okay, I can't take that away from you. What I will say though is that I'm hoping you will not do that. Fortunately, YouTube doesn't show it. For example, the video with Luke is currently the most successful video of the channel, I believe. The latest video where I interviewed Luke Thompson, and there are about 2 dislikes for some reason. Like, fortunately, the vast majority of people like the video, so the dislikes is just 1% of people or something like that. Something as ridiculous as that. Well, I don't understand why anybody would really give the video a dislike. To be honest, I think I can. I think it's because of the thumbnail, the image. I think it was a little bit provocative. But what can you do? If you do YouTube, you need to find a way to make people click the video. So if someone found it a little bit embarrassing or pathetic, I apologize for that. I didn't mean any harm. But going back to what we are doing here now, and there's the last expression that I want to teach you. This came from Marvin. He said, if Saudi Arabia wins, there is a big spanner into the works there. So this is a variation of the idiom to throw a spanner in the works, which is a really, really cool idiom. So first of all, this is a spanner. Okay, I hope you guys can see it. A spanner. I'm sure you know what it is. It's a tool that we use, yeah, for tightening a nut, yeah, and not the kind of nut that you eat, a different nut, yeah. When you have nuts and bolts, that kind of stuff. So to throw a spanner in the works. So what is works? Works with S at the end. It's basically some kind of machine. Often when you refer to works, you refer to the parts of the machine that move. Often these are some cogs, cogs, they kind of move. So imagine cogs that are sort of intricately put together, and it works, right? Because I mean, imagine a watch, and those little cogs, they are sort of attached to each other in a way that it works. And if you throw a spanner in the works, then imagine what happens, right? Imagine what happens if you throw this in the works or into the works. Well, it's gonna bring a problem, right? It's gonna cause a problem. So that's exactly the definition of this phrase: to cause problems that prevent something from happening in a way that is planned. Often it's used when you plan something and then you expect it to work, and then someone throws a spanner in the works, and they make it fail, right? It does not succeed the way it should. So in this case, Saudi Arabia isn't really expected to win their last match, but if they do, they will really complicate this group. And this means Argentina might not even qualify. So Marvin said, if Saudi Arabia wins, there is a big spanner into the works. As I said, it's a variation to this idiom to throw a spanner in the works. So, yeah, that's it. Well, thank you very much for watching. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel if this is your first time watching. And I've been Zdenek. It was nice to talk to you again. And hopefully there will be another interview soon. Stay tuned and take care, everyone.